This billionaire falls in love with this orphan who works as a laborer to survive. In the vibrant center of OSA lived a young woman named Sonia. At only 24 years old, her gaze bore the marks of a life scarred by too many hardships. Every morning before the sun appeared, she tied a scarf over her damaged hair, put on her worn boots, and walked to the dusty construction site at the end of the street. Sonia stood out from the other workers. She carried blocks on her head, stirred cement on coal, and transported wheelbarrows full of sand without ever complaining. Under a scorching sun, she worked hard to earn her living. Life had never given her any favors. At the age of 12, she lost her parents in a tragic bus accident while they were returning from a village. No help was offered to them and no family member took them in. Sonia found herself alone, responsible for her two younger siblings, Edouard, aged 8, and Gloria, who was only 6. Sonia became their mother, their father, and their pillar. Initially, she collected abandoned bread crusts along the roads. Then she washed other people's laundry. When that was no longer enough, she begged a mason to teach her the basics of construction work. That's how she started carrying blocks to ensure their survival. Despite all the difficulties, she never let a complaint escape her lips. Sometimes, when her hands trembled from the effort, she would sit on the edge of a construction, look up at the sky, and softly whisper, "One day, everything will be better." She was far from suspecting that this hoped-for change was much closer than she imagined. Not far from there, in the same city, lived a young billionaire named Claude. At 30 years old, tall, composed, and discreet, his face regularly appeared in magazines and his name graced billboards. Owner of 2 major real estate companies, one in Nigeria and the other in the United States, his fortune was on everyone's lips. However, one aspect of his life escaped public knowledge. Claude shunned the noise. Nightclub parties did not appeal to him, and he was wary of delicate smiles. Born into opulence, he remained humble nonetheless. His mother, a benevolent woman with gentle eyes, often repeated to him, "Treat every person with respect, regardless of their condition. True wealth is measured by how you treat others." Claude took her words to heart. However, despite his riches, his cars and his mansions, a void persisted within him. He had never met the ideal woman. Many women, elegant and wealthy, had crossed his path. But something always rang false. They seemed loving, but he perceived their greed. One morning, Claude woke up feeling light. He chose to go shopping and visit one of his properties. Dressed in a simple green t-shirt, jeans, and a cap, he avoided suits and flashy cars, preferring one of his classic black SUVs. "Today, I just want to relax," he said, taking his keys. He went to a nearby supermarket, not far from a plot of land he wanted to examine. Inside, Claude selected a few snacks, drinks, toothpaste, and other essential items. He smiled at the cashier, paid for his purchases, and carefully tucked his black wallet into his back pocket. But as he headed for his car, an object fell. He didn't realize it. It was his wallet, which contained everything: his American driver's license, 2 foreign credit cards, his Nigerian ID card, his business cards, and over $2,000 in cash. Once in his car, he felt calm. He opened a bottle of water and drank slowly before starting the engine. He was completely unaware of what he had just lost. That same morning, Sonia was on her way to the construction site, but a slight hunger had woken her up. She decided to make a detour to the supermarket to buy a drink and some snacks. She carefully checked the money in her bag twice to make sure she had enough. After making her purchases, she left the store in silence. But something caught her eye near the parking lot. A black wallet lay there. She stopped, looked around. No one seemed to be searching for anything. She approached, slowly bent down, and picked up the object. Opening it, she discovered a large amount of foreign currency, business cards, and some documents. Eyes wide, Sonia murmured, "Who could have left this here?" She stepped back, examined the wallet more closely, and found business cards. She took one and tried to decipher the number. But it had an international dialing code. No WhatsApp contact or Nigerian number was listed. She tried to call the foreign number, but the connection failed. For a moment, she looked around again. No one had returned to claim the object. She could have left with it. No one would have known. But an inner voice urged her not to. She returned to the supermarket. "Excuse me," she said. "I found this wallet outside near the parking lot." It must have fallen out of someone's pocket. The surprised cashier replied, "You're saying a wallet like this was lost?" Sonia nodded. "Yes, please hand it over to security. When the owner comes, give it back to him." The cashier stared at her. "You are a good person. Thank you." Sonia handed her the wallet and left the store. Not far from there, at a gas station, Claude parked his car and got out. An employee approached with a smile. "Good day, sir, full tank?" he asked. "Yes, please," Claude replied. "Payment by card or cash?" The employee continued. "By debit card," Claude answered. The employee added, "If you're paying by card, I'd prefer you settle up first, as the network can sometimes be unstable." Claude agreed. "Okay, no problem." Then he reached for his back pocket, where he usually kept his wallet. But it was empty. He stopped dead. He checked another pocket. Nothing. He opened his car door, searched the front seat, under the seat, the dashboard, between the seats. Still nothing. He turned to the station employee. "Give me a minute, please." Claude jumped into his car and immediately drove off. On the way to the supermarket, he prayed in a low voice. "My God, please let it be there. Please let me find my wallet." A few moments later, Claude parked his vehicle at the supermarket and got out hurriedly. He went straight to the cashier's counter and declared, "Excuse me, ma'am, I was here about an hour ago. I think I've lost my wallet. Has anyone found it?" The cashier observed him closely. "You're the one who bought snacks, aren't you?" she asked. "Yes, that's me," Claude replied, trying to stay calm. The cashier nodded. "Indeed, a young woman found a wallet shortly after you left. She entrusted it to our security manager." A sigh of relief escaped Claude. "Thank goodness, may I speak with him?" "I'll call him," the cashier replied. She briefly stepped away to notify the security guard and returned accompanied by a tall man, dressed in a dark blue uniform bearing a tag with the name Mr. Sandro. "Good evening, sir," the man greeted. "Good evening," Claude replied. "I lost my wallet this morning. I was here to make some purchases. The cashier informed me that someone found it and gave it to you." The man confirmed, "Yes, sir. A young woman brought us a wallet a little while ago. But do you have proof that it belongs to you?" "Yes," Claude replied without hesitation. "My business cards are inside. My name is Claude Alonso. You will also find an ID photo." The security guard opened a small drawer near the counter and took out the black wallet. He examined it, spotted the business cards and the photo, then looked at Claude. "You are right, it is yours." He handed him the object. Claude opened it cautiously, checking each compartment. Everything was intact, the money, the documents, the cards. Nothing was missing. He clutched the wallet against him and turned to the cashier and the guard. "Where is the woman who brought it back?" he asked. The cashier smiled. "She didn't say much. She just came in to buy some snacks and a drink. She found the wallet outside and brought it back." Claude blinked, surprised. "She didn't leave a contact number?" "No, sir," the cashier replied. "She didn't even wait to be thanked." Claude was silent for a moment, then asked for a piece of paper and a pen. He carefully wrote down his phone number, folded the paper, and handed it to the cashier. "Please," he said. "If she comes back, give her this and tell her to call me." "Understood, sir," the cashier replied with a nod. Claude reached into his wallet, pulled out a few Naira bills, and offered them to the cashier and Mr. Sandro. "Thank you," he said, "not only for keeping my wallet safe but also for your help." They both thanked him with wide smiles. Returning to his car, Claude scanned the surroundings, hoping to catch a glimpse of the woman who had shown such honesty in returning his wallet, but she had already left. However, a deep intuition whispered to him that their paths would cross again. That night, Claude remained awake in his vast bedroom. Although darkness enveloped the room, his eyes remained wide open. He tossed and turned in his bed, but sleep refused to come. His thoughts kept returning to the kind young woman at the supermarket, the one who had returned his wallet without taking anything from it. Placing a hand on his heart, he stared at the ceiling. "Incredible. She showed that there are still honest souls in this world," he murmured. "She saw all that money and didn't touch it." He sat up in bed, slowly shaking his head. I don't even know her name, he said in a low voice. If only she had left a number, I would like to thank her in person. I hope she comes back, he added. 3 weeks later, Sonia returned to the same supermarket. Having finally saved up a little money, she wanted to buy provisions for herself and her younger siblings, Edouard and Gloria. As she pushed a cart at the entrance, she looked exhausted but determined. She didn't notice the cashier near the counter waving to her. "Excuse me, ma'am," the cashier called out. Sonia continued on her way. "Ma'am, please." Still no response. Then someone gently tapped Sonia's arm and whispered, "Hello. The cashier is trying to call you." Sonia slowly turned around. The cashier approached. "Hello, ma'am," she said gently. "Sorry to interrupt you, but someone asked me to give you this." She handed her a folded piece of paper. Sonia blinked, surprised. "Who gave you this?" she asked. The cashier's smile widened. "The man whose wallet you returned a few weeks ago. He told me, if she comes back, give her this." Sonia froze, her fingers lightly gripping the paper. She opened it and found a phone number. Her heart quickened. She hadn't expected anything of the sort, especially after 3 weeks. She had even forgotten the incident. "Oh, thank you," she replied in a low voice. The cashier nodded. "He seemed very serious about wanting to thank you," she added. Sonia folded the paper and kept it in her hand while continuing her shopping. But her mind was no longer truly in the store. She couldn't stop thinking about the paper and what it might represent. Upon returning home, she carefully slipped it into her shopping bag. Back in their small apartment, she placed the bag in a corner and went straight to the kitchen. Later that evening, while Gloria, her younger sister, unpacked the groceries Sonia had bought and tidied up the house, she picked up the used paper bags from the supermarket and threw them into the outside bin. She was unaware that a phone number was among them. By the time Sonia realized it, it was already too late. The next morning, Sonia woke up with a slight sense of calm. Then she thought back to the paper the cashier had given her, the one with Claude's number. A discreet smile spread across her face. "Today, I'm going to call him," she told herself. Later in the day, when she was ready to make the call, she opened her handbag to retrieve the number. Suddenly, she stopped. She remembered she had slipped the paper into the shopping bag from the supermarket. "Gloria," she immediately called out. Gloria answered from outside the house. When she came in, Sonia said, "Can you check the paper bag I brought back yesterday? There's a small piece of paper inside." Gloria paused for a moment before answering. "Is it important? Because I threw it away yesterday." Sonia's eyes widened. "Oh no." Without thinking, she ran barefoot into the street, straight toward the large green dumpster on the corner. She didn't care who was watching. She lifted the lid of the bin, but it was empty, completely empty. The garbage collectors had already passed. Sonia stood rooted to the spot, petrified. Her heart sank. Looking at the empty bin, a pain gripped her chest. Her hands fell limply to her sides. Her legs felt heavy. She slowly sat down on the sidewalk near the bin, staring at the ground, and murmured, "My God, why now? How could this happen?" Tears silently streamed down her cheeks, but after a few minutes, she wiped her face with the edge of her dress. She stood up and whispered softly, "If it's meant to be, it will happen another way." She considered returning to the supermarket to ask the cashier to get the number again. But as she was about to leave, she stopped. She didn't want to seem desperate. Taking a deep breath, she slowly walked back home. Yet, deep in her heart, a glimmer of hope persisted. 2 weeks passed. Life went back to its usual rhythm. Sonia returned to the construction site, getting up early and coming home late as was her habit. Then one Saturday morning, a neighbor knocked on her door. "Sonia," she said, "there's a free distribution at the local government secretariat. They're giving away food, books, and even drinks. It's organized by a big real estate company. You should go with Edouard and Gloria. I'll be there too." Sonia nodded. "Okay, let's go." Upon arrival, the place was lively but calm. People were queuing. Volunteers were distributing bottles of water, drinks, and bags of rice. Sonia received a small package of rice and some tomato paste. As she was about to leave, something caught her eye. Near the drink stand, a woman was serving juice. Her face seemed familiar. Sonia looked at her again. It was the supermarket cashier. The woman looked up, squinted slightly, then flashed a big smile. "Oh, it's you, the one who returned the wallet, isn't it?" Sonia smiled back. "Yes, it's me. But I lost the number you gave me." The woman's smile broadened. She leaned in and whispered, "The man is here. He's funding this event." Sonia's heart raced. She froze. Her gaze slowly scanned the crowd. Was this the moment she had been waiting for? The cashier glanced around, then discreetly pointed to a black SUV calmly parked on the corner of the field. "That's him," she said with a smile. "The man in that SUV, I'm going to tell him you're here." Sonia's eyes widened. She shook her head quickly. No, that's not necessary," she replied in a low voice. "I didn't come for that," but the cashier had already turned and was walking towards the SUV with a wide smile. Sonia stood motionless, her heart pounding. Her hands became sweaty. A few seconds later, she saw the cashier approach the vehicle, lean slightly, and talk to the man inside, pointing towards Sonia. Then, a man got out. It was Claude. He looked in the direction indicated by the cashier. Their eyes met. He slowly walked toward her, stopped in front of her, and gave her a gentle smile. "I finally found you," he said in a calm voice. Sonia returned his smile. "Hello, sir. What is your name?" Claude asked. "My name is Sonia," she replied in a clear but soft voice. Claude nodded, a smile on his lips, slowly shaking his head. "You have no idea how long I've been trying to find you," he said. Sonia looked down at the ground, then replied, "I misplaced the number the cashier gave me. I put it in a bag, but my siblings threw it away." Claude offered a slight smile. "I'm sorry about that, but maybe our meeting today is not a coincidence. Perhaps our meeting here is not a matter of chance." Sonia addressed him gently. "How did you know about this event?" she replied. "A neighbor told me about it, so I decided to come," Sonia explained. "It's a wonderful initiative. I'm really happy that you're here," Claude replied. Then he took out his phone and handed it to her. "Can you enter your number here, please?" he asked. Sonia took the device with both hands and carefully typed in her number. Next, Claude sent her a missed call. "Call me right away so I can save it. Contact me once you get home," he added softly. Sonia smiled. "Okay, sir," she replied in a joyful voice. Before leaving, Claude went to get a small brown envelope from his car and handed it to her delicately. "Just a small gesture," he said. "Use it for your purchases." Sonia's eyes lit up with gratitude. She clutched the envelope to her heart. "Thank you, sir. May God bless you," she replied. Claude returned a smile and a nod, then turned towards the group of organizers nearby. Sonia turned and headed towards the main road. She reached the bus stop, waited a few minutes, then a small yellow bus serving her neighborhood arrived. As she boarded, Sonia slipped into a narrow space at the back. The bus was crowded, and the noise of the traffic filled the air. She quickly sat down, placing her handbag on her lap. A few minutes into the journey, the bus slowed down as it approached her stop. Sonia hastily opened her bag to take out money for the driver, but her phone was right on top of the bills. Without thinking, she gently placed it on her lap to reach the money. The driver then called out, "Madam, the money. Hurry up, you're delaying me." Sonia grabbed the bills, handed them over, then quickly picked up her bag and the package of rice obtained at the event. Under the pressure to get off before the bus left again, she forgot the object placed on her lap, her phone. She stood up in a hurry, got off, and joined the crowd on the sidewalk. The bus door closed behind her, and the driver pulled away. Inside the moving vehicle, Sonia's phone silently slipped from the seat to the floor, going unnoticed. She had not yet realized what she had left behind. Back home, she opened her bag to take out her phone, wishing to call Claude to thank him again. But the device was no longer there. She then remembered having placed it on her lap before getting off too quickly. Sonia collapsed onto the floor. Her eyes reddened, but she held back her tears. Closing her eyes, she calmly murmured, "God, you are faithful." Despite the pain in her heart, her faith remained intact. Later that evening, Claude was sitting in his living room, his heart full of enthusiasm. He smiled, thinking back to Sonia's discreet smile, her gentle voice, and the light in her eyes when he had handed her the envelope. He was burning with desire to hear her voice again. He took his phone and dialed the number she had entered. But the call didn't go through. It went straight to voicemail. The number was switched off. He stopped, perplexed, then tried again, still the same result. Maybe her battery is dead, he told himself, or maybe she turned it off to rest. He waited about 30 minutes before trying again. Still off. Claude leaned back on his couch, a strange sensation beginning to creep over him. Why is her phone still off? He murmured. The next morning, agitated, he dressed simply, got into his car, and returned to the supermarket. Upon arrival, he went straight to the cashier. "Hello," he said. The woman looked up and smiled. "Hello, sir. Do you happen to know where the young woman who returned my wallet lives?" "Sonia?" Claude asked. The cashier thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No, sir, she never told us where she lived." "All right. Thank you." As he walked back to his car, his mind was filled with questions. Did she block me? Did something happen to her? He didn't know what to think. He sat in his vehicle for a few minutes, silent, his gaze lost through the windshield. Then he started the engine and drove home. 2 days later, Claude decided to visit a relative, hoping it would soothe his mind. Driving down a quiet street on the outskirts of the city, something caught his attention. An elderly woman was sitting near a small wooden stall, her head resting against a dusty wall. Her legs stretched out on the ground, a few bananas were displayed on the table. At first glance, her face seemed familiar. He slowed down, his eyes fixed on her. As he approached, a certainty grew in him, and his heart sank. He murmured, "Yes, it's her." Claude gently parked his car on the side, turned off the engine, and got out discreetly. He walked slowly, observing her carefully. Then his heart leaped. He recognized her. Claude stepped closer and called out softly, "Mom." The old woman woke up suddenly, looking frightened. It was his childhood nanny. "Who are you, please?" she asked in a weak voice. Claude gave her a tender smile. "It's me, Claude, Alonzo and Christine's son." The woman's eyes widened. She remained motionless for a moment, scrutinizing his face. Then she covered her mouth with both hands. "Alonzo," she repeated. "Your father is Alonzo and your mother is Christine?" Claude nodded. "Yes, madam." The woman let out a small cry of joy and hugged him. "My son," she said, "you've grown so much. I used to carry you on my back. I worked for your parents years ago. God is wonderful." Claude smiled and took her hands. "Mom, what are you doing here? Why are you sleeping outside?" The old woman sighed and looked away. "It's a long story, my son." Claude didn't need to hear more. He gently took her arm. "Come, I'm taking you home." Without hesitation, she followed him. He helped her into his car, and they drove away calmly. Upon arriving at his house, Claude offered the old woman a comfortable room to rest, clean clothes, and a meal. The next morning, he entered her room and greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Mom," he said. The elderly woman slowly sat up, her eyes misty with tears as she looked at him. "Good morning, my son," she replied. Claude approached and delicately wiped her tears with a tissue, but his voice trembled when she spoke. "My son, may God protect you. You can't imagine what you've done. You've lifted me out of humiliation and misery." These words touched Claude deeply. He looked at her and declared in a calm but determined voice, "You will never leave again." He meant it with all his heart. Next, Claude escorted the old woman to the living room. He served her steaming tea and sat across from her, then gently asked, "Mom, why were you lying by the roadside? What happened?" The woman sighed deeply. Her gaze seemed lost in the distance, as if reliving old memories. "My son," she began softly, "after your parents, Alonzo and Christine, left for the United States, they gave me some money. I was so happy. I used that money to start a small business. I began selling food products in a local market and rented a small apartment." Claude listened in silence, nodding at her words. "At first, everything was going well," she continued. "But years later, the business declined. Prices for goods soared, and customers bought less. My merchandise spoiled. Sometimes, I spent entire days at the market selling almost nothing." Her voice weakened. One day, The landlord demanded the rent. I begged him to give me an extension, but he refused. A few weeks later, he came with 2 men and threw all my belongings out. Claude's eyes widened. He did that? The woman nodded sadly. Yes, my son. I gathered the little I had left and settled in my small shop, the only shelter. I slept there every night. She paused, her hands trembling slightly. Then one night around midnight, while I was sleeping on the shop floor, 5 men forced the door open. I tried to scream, but one of them threatened me with a weapon. They stole all the money I had earned that month, my phone, and the most valuable products. Claude leaned forward, clenching his hands so tightly that his knuckles turned white. She continued, the following month, the shop owner came and told me, if you don't pay the rent, leave. I cried, I begged her, but she locked the shop and chased me out. Tears slowly streamed down Claude's cheeks. He covered his mouth and looked away, struggling to remain strong. Mom, he whispered, all this happened to you? The woman nodded, her lips quivering. The pain in Claude's heart was immense. He could neither speak nor move, remaining frozen, his gaze lost in the void. After this heartbreaking conversation, Claude retreated to his office and sat in silence for a few minutes. Then he grabbed his phone and called his construction engineer. Hello, sir, the engineer answered. Hello. Claude said calmly. I have a special assignment for you. I want you to build a 4-bedroom house, simple but sturdy. It must be ready in 2 months. 2 months? The engineer repeated. Yes, Claude confirmed. It's for a very important person. She will move in as soon as it's finished. The engineer paused, then replied, Understood, sir. It will be done. The work began the following week. The brick house started to take shape in the peaceful and secure neighborhood of Lekki. On a sunny afternoon, Claude decided to visit the construction site to check on the progress. He arrived in his black SUV, got out slowly, and surveyed the area. The structure was half finished, the walls erected, but without a roof. As he approached the building, something caught his eye. A young woman wearing a dusty scarf and an old long t-shirt was passing by with a heavy block on her head. She was focused, her gaze fixed straight ahead. Yet, her face seemed familiar. Claude stopped, his heart beating faster. He squinted and murmured, Wait, could that be her? He took one step, then another. The woman was approaching, still carrying her block. Sweat streamed down her face, her hands covered in cement. Claude called out softly, Sonia. She froze, slowly turning towards him, their eyes meeting. Sir, she said, her voice almost broken. You again. They stood there, both stunned, perplexed, full of questions. Claude took a step toward her and gazed into her eyes. You know, he began softly, when I was told that a young woman found my wallet full of foreign currency and returned it when she could have kept it, I was astonished. Sonia remained silent, her eyes fixed on him. Claude continued. I planned a reward worthy of you. I waited for your call. But seeing you here, carrying blocks under a scorching sun, doing work usually reserved for men, all while knowing that you returned that wallet without touching the money. He paused, slowly shaking his head. Unbelievable. That fascinates me even more. Then in a calm but firm voice he added, All right, now I want you to put that block down and come with me. Sonia's fingers gripped the block. She looked up at him, silent, uncertain of what was happening. What was Claude's plan for her now that he had seen her true struggles? What would he do next? Would this moment be the starting point of their love story? Stay tuned for the rest. Thank you so much for following this story to the end of the first part. If you enjoyed it and want a sequel, leave a comment below saying, continue the story. Thank you again for watching and leaving a comment from the country you are following us from. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss upcoming stories. Thank you.